Thanks for setting up this time to talk. Sorry, I couldn't make our first run around. I just gotten back from the jungle and my body was dead. I wasn't in the
Totally
mental
understand.
place
Yeah, no
to.
problem.
Dude, that was so hard, man. We went down to train with the Siona, the indigenous community in between Ecuador and Colombia, and it was brutally hot, and the medicine was strong, all that good stuff.
Oh,
But
wow.
dude, I'm really excited to have you here, man. I'd love to if you could spend some time just telling a little bit about your experience and what got you into the military and just kind of a little background about you, and we can start from there.
Well, I guess going back that far, I think I just, when I finished high school, I started going to college, and I wasn't digging it. I was ready to do something different. I had always wanted to be a pilot, but when I joined the Army, of course, the recruiters told me, yeah, you can join and then try to be a pilot later, which,
Tricky.
yeah, I don't know if that's true because there is another way to do it from the beginning. But so I joined the infantry and I went in for 3 years into the infantry, applied to warrant officer school, ended up transitioning to aviation, being a warrant officer, and started flying Blackhawks right out of flight school. So 3 years infantry and then 20 more years in aviation. And that's pretty much the the beginning, I guess you should say, adult part of my life.
Mhm. Yeah, man, that like the 23 years in total.
Yeah, 23 and a half.
Man, congratulations. That's a long
Thank you.
haul, dude.
Yeah.
What kept you in that long?
I was enjoying it. I got into, I wanted to do aviation and got into special ops back in 2002. And it was just, busy life and good flying. And so my initial goal was to make it to 3 years. Then it was to make it to 10. And then at 10, I decided to go for 20. And then at 20, I just said, I'm going to stay until I'm done. And so a little after, 22, I started saying, I think I'm done. So dropped my retirement paperwork, got out in 2015.
Nice. And I think you had mentioned you've been on a self-improvement journey since then.
Yeah. So when I got out, I didn't realize it. I didn't realize that I was unhappy, when I got out. I think, when you do something that long, or even if you do it for one term, you're a soldier, you're a gunner, you're a pilot, you're an officer, whatever your job is in the military, you start to identify as that. And then when you change careers, I think some people, myself included, you kind of lose your identity. Like, who am I now? I'm still a father, I'm still a husband, all that stuff, but professionally, we get so wrapped up in what we do as an identity that when that changes, maybe you start to question, what am I supposed to do now? Or, who am I? Because now I was this, special operations aviator, and now I'm just me. What is that?
Hmm.
And so I think a lot of guys, when they get out, that's why we see a lot of the problems we have with the suicide rate and stuff like that, is people just struggle with their identity and their happiness. And there's also some cultural stuff I'll talk about too, coming out of the military, that
Yeah.
contributes to that.
So it's like I'm picking up like identity is a pretty common theme. And then you
Yeah.
mentioned cultural. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd love to
So
have you dig into that.
yeah. So think about when you're in the military and you're sitting around eating chow, sitting around in the field waiting, the hurry up and wait, and then the old phrase like, Joe's not happy unless he's got something to bitch about. That bitching and complaining all the time about, oh man, this sucks, we're getting screwed, I didn't get to go to this school, all this complaining all the time, it becomes like a way of life. It's almost like you're one upping each other on having stuff to complain about when you're in the military. Really, you choose to be there, you're a volunteer, life's not so bad. But if you allow your personality to become affected over a long period of time by sort of a negativity bias, that's just, you know, there's a lot of stuff talk about manifesting and all that stuff, but man, I tell you, if you think about negative stuff all the time, you're going to have a negative mindset and negative stuff's going to happen, you know. So I think I had gotten into I'm not saying all I did was sit around and complain, but you know, I didn't always see the bright side in everything, and it affected my life. So
Yeah, I like to say like where your energy flows, where your focus flows, your energy goes. You know, like focusing on the negative or the positive, wherever you're focusing and putting your time and attention and energy on, that's what's going to manifest in your life or show up. Or at
yeah,
least at a very basic level, a scientific level, you're more tuned into it, so you'll notice it more. Even
yeah,
if there's the
true.
same amount of suck and good stuff, if you're focused on the suck, that's all you're going to be seeing.
Yeah. So my journey has been to try to just take responsibility for my life, for everything that's good and bad, and focus on the good and realize that, you know, I have everything I need to be happy. And all the little things that you complain about really aren't often that big of a deal. So
Hmm. A little bit about what Jocko Willink talks about in his book, Extreme Ownership. I'm not sure if you've read that
I
or if you're
haven't.
familiar with Jocko. Yeah, Jocko is like a Navy SEAL commander and really big in the motivation discipline space. You know, yeah. How did you identify that? You said that it took you a while to figure out you were unhappy. How did you identify
Well,
that?
I think really it started manifesting into my marriage. You know, my relationship with my wife. I think it started in 2012. My brother, he was a former Marine, and he ended up committing suicide in 2012. I was deployed to Afghanistan and had to come home and bury him. And you know, he was my baby brother. I was 14 when he was born, so I took care of him a lot when he was a baby, and that absolutely wrecked me. And you know, there's like 2 years of my life that I barely remember. I was existing. I was working, you know, in the military doing my thing, but I think that's when my sadness set in the most. And I had lost a couple of other male figures in my life, my grandfather, then my stepdad, then my brother, like successive years. And I think I just became no fun to be around. You know, I was sad all the time. And instead of embracing all the good stuff I had in my life, you know, and enjoying life with my wife and kids, I was sad all the time. And uh, as I sort of came out of that funk and then got into the retirement, you know, I was happy to be retired, but then again, like I said about the identity, and I think I just started feeling like I was losing my marriage. You know, it was the first time in my marriage that it looked like maybe me and my wife weren't going to make it as a couple, and I started digging into self-help stuff and just trying to figure out like how to be a better version of myself.
Hmm. So it was the catalyst of facing the loss of your marriage and maybe family that really prompted you to look for help and change.
Yeah.
What were some of those resources that you found? Like what was the develop like what did you try first? What worked? Kind of how did you find your way and what did you find?
It started with my wife and I went to a few sessions of marriage counseling, and I think there's some value to that, but I just think it wasn't the best thing for me. I ended up finding online. I found a guy named Steve Horseman. His brand is Good Guys to Great Men, and his niche, he kind of finds guys who are searching for help about, you know, saving their marriage and stuff like that, but it's much deeper than that. It's really not about saving your marriage, it's about saving yourself. It's about how to be that happy man, uh, how to be a good leader of yourself and the people in your life. And he's got a book out and got a community. He does retreats and he's got online coaching. So I think that when I found Steve Horseman's stuff, that's what really set me on the path to taking responsibility for my life and not blaming circumstances for where I was.
That's a powerful fundamental principle, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we can, it's so easy to blame other things, people, processes, organizations, anything other than ourselves for what's happened.
Mm-hmm.
And like some things obviously are out of our control, but it's a bit of a controversial view, but I think we're responsible for everything in our life, even if it's, like I had a very bad childhood, my really bad childhood. And I've started to take responsibility for that too, at some level. Even though like the traditional view would be like, oh, you're a kid, you didn't deserve that, or like it, but at the end of the day, I think if we take responsibility for everything, then it's also in our power to change it or reframe it.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, I looked up Steve Horseman. I'll include his in the show notes, and in the podcast notes later, I'll include his link to his websites. The people that are in a similar position to you might be able to find him as well. That's really good that he was able to help. So after that base with Steve Horseman, like how long did you train with him?
So actually, I read his book. He's got hundreds of YouTube videos out. The way he got started was he was in an unhappy place and had lost his marriage and decided, hey, I'm going to do something about this. I don't know, maybe he was working with a coach, and he said, I'm going to make 100 videos to try to help other men that are like me. And he did that, and then he just kept on going. Now he's got hundreds of videos on so many topics, and he's got a newsletter. He's all his newsletters, obviously, it's lead magnet, it's free information, and then he wants you to join his coaching. But every single newsletter has a valuable bit of information in it, usually a little video attached. And I talked to him a few times. I did a little bit of business with him. Uh, did some stuff for him, like making him some hats and T-shirts and stuff like that. But I never did make it to attend one of his retreats. But just through all the value that he provides and brings into the world, helped me to open my eyes. And then, of course, I started reading other stuff. And I mean, we're talking about a long journey here, like 8 years of now of trying to be a better version of myself. So it's doable, but results can be had as soon as someone is ready to start making positive changes in their life.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like, yeah, it's a long journey, but do you think you'll ever be done with that? Like, my view is that
Well, no.
you never do
Yeah,
until
see,
you die.
that's the thing. It is a journey. It's not happiness is not a destination. It is your life. So when do you finally go, okay, now I'm happy. Now I can do this. You start being happy and then you enjoy life from then on. So you can either choose to be miserable your whole life, or you can choose to be happy your whole life. And, you know, the rest is up to you. So,
Yeah, strongly agree with that, man. Anything that, what did you find after Steve Horseman? Like, were there practices that you integrated into your life? Did you go to therapy? What was that process like? Because it sounded like Steve Horseman opened the door to you understanding there were things that you could work on and that there was changes you could make in your life.
um, I think I've just been kind of a student of mindset. I've done a lot of reading and I love listening to podcasts such as this. And I like listening to audiobooks because I can do other things while I'm listening to books. So there was one book in particular that I read, and I can't remember the name of it right now. It was something like 30 days to find your masculinity or your happiness or something like that. And one of the things in there was about writing down your goals. And so I was like, oh, whatever, I guess I'll write down some goals. So I started writing down goals, and I've always had kind of an entrepreneurial mindset, and I wanted to start my own business. So I wrote down, hey, at the time I had a drone, and I wanted to do aerial photography for money. So I said I need to start flying my drone more and figure out how to make money with it. So that was one of my goals. So I started doing the drone stuff, and even though that ended up not being the business, it got my mind going in that direction to where I ended up starting a small apparel business that was, aviation niche, and that's still going. It's not a huge brand. It's not a huge moneymaker. It's kind of a side passion hobby thing. And then I started a nutritional brand. So just that one thing of writing down a goal, I need to do some kind of business thing. I need to start doing this. It started setting my mind in that direction. Now I listen to a lot of business stuff. I listen to books by Alex Ramosi, um, Grant Cardone, and then of course I've listened to several different mindset books about having to do with that manifesting type of mentality. So just kind of a continual study.
Yeah, I love that. I'm a real big fan of Alex Ramosi for sure. Yeah, I think when I come across a lot of veterans, a lot of them sort of get very turned off by the idea of manifestation or spirituality or anything that seems like touchy-feely to them. Did you have that experience when you first started getting into this, and how do you handle when people react that way now?
Well, I'm really not concerned with how people react to it. I mean, because it's, everyone has their own beliefs. I think there's a way, no matter what your beliefs, to connect it to your beliefs. There's, you could say, hey, it's God. You're talking to God, and ask and you shall receive, and all that stuff. And then there's the people who say, hey, it's you're talking to the universe, and the universe provides. However you look at it, whether you consider it a religion or not, I think there's something bigger than us. There's something out there that's bigger than us, and our mind is a part of that. And everything begins with a thought. Every action, every physical thing, it's thought of, and then it's created. And you can create feelings, thoughts, happenings in your life by using your mind. Using your thoughts. What you think about, you will become. What are your thoughts about that?
I think that's actually absolutely accurate. Yeah, I mean, I've got a particular cosmovision, a way of looking at the world, revolves around a lot of spirituality. It revolves around the red path, which is a combination of the indigenous traditions in the North and South. So I do crazy things, man. I do like 4 day, every year I do a 4 day, no food, no water fast on the side of a mountain under a piece of plastic to remind myself of how important water is and to unlock my own internal medicine. I pray to Pachamama and Wakuntanka, the universal mystery. So I'm personally agnostic when it comes to however people think about the world or heal, which is why I'm doing this podcast. Like I've got Christians on the podcast that healed through church, even though it wouldn't be what I would particularly choose because I've had a very challenged relationship with the church personally.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't really care. I think at the end of the day, like once we start truly healing, we realize that if someone is getting benefit, if someone's healing, becoming a better person, it doesn't really matter what it is, even if you don't agree with it, you know? So I'm very much in line with you. And like my vision for this podcast is to have thousands of these conversations where veterans can see that A, they're not alone, and B, that there are a million ways to heal. No one cares, or I don't care about your religious views, or if you use EMDR or traditional therapy or marriage counseling or ayahuasca, like all of these things are good. And no one can tell you really, I think, what works for you. You got to figure that out for yourself. It sounds like you did that over a process of many years. Is this idea of experimenting. define what works for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that definitely resonates a lot. What would like what I'm curious about the 2 years, the trauma that you went through with losing all those male role models and your brother. Did you ever get help for that? Did you ever talk to someone about that? Like start working through those wounds?
I don't think I really did specifically. I never went to any kind of counseling or anything for that. I think I just healed over time and then came to the realization that dwelling on grief is not healthy. There is a healthy way to grieve, and then there's an unhealthy way to grieve. And I realized that I was grieving in an unhealthy way. I was maybe ruminating on it.
Mm,
I used to envision the way that my brother died, and I would just see it in my head over and over again. And it was just really unhealthy. And I don't know. I guess I did it the hard way. I'm kind of a do-it-yourselfer by nature.
mm,
I pretty much do everything I can rather than hire it out. So, I mean, do-it-yourself recovery or healing is a thing. There's a way to do it, but it definitely takes longer to figure it out on your own than to learn from other people. So,
mm. I agree with that. I think we're not meant to do most things on our own. We're tribal based. I believe we're tribal based animals, and we're meant to operate in community. Yeah, it's kind of like I think a lot of veterans are kind of finding themselves in that situation. We're taught in the military to be resilient and tough and to compartmentalize the feelings that we feel. And a lot of us get out and try to do it like you did, like do it alone. What I'm
mm.
trying to do is build a community and people that can come together and help each other through these things. Do you think that might have helped in terms of like doing it with other people?
Oh yeah, yeah, I agree with you that you know we need other people that we can talk to about whatever it is we want to talk to. So I think it's a good thing that you're doing. People people that are sort of like-minded or have things in common and can trust each other and tell each other things that they wouldn't even tell their coworkers or friends because they have that community and that trust. And I think it's a good thing for sure.
Hmm. I really appreciate that. It's something that I've got to do now. I started my own healing journey in 2012. It was a pretty slow start for me. Medically retired and got out of the army way before I thought I was going to be a lifer like you
Hmm.
know, and that didn't happen. And then I ended up, taking the alcoholism traits that I had learned in the army, and that spiraled out of control. So it's just
Hmm.
unhappy, healthy, and just really a wreck, man. And it about 2015. So I think when you got out, I had made my way down here to Colombia, and it was the community of Colombia and the people that were showing me a different way to live life. Like truly hugging each other, asking each other how they were doing, like sitting down and listening to the damn answer. I was like, man, these people operate differently. Like, what can I do? And I found myself trying to connect, but I didn't know how because I hadn't learned those skills. I've been on my own since I left at 17 for the military academy. I was kicked out of my family, like couldn't communicate with anyone. It was pretty rough, and it was community that really healed me. One of the major influences, and now like it's one of the things I'm most grateful for. The people that are in my life, that I can call at 3 in the morning if I need to. We have that in the army too. We got those buddies that, if you're really in trouble, you can call them and they're going to come. I
Hmm.
wonder, do you have any thoughts on how we might build a community like that online? Something that can be very useful for people and foster those types of relationships. Do you have any thoughts on how we might be able to do that?
Well, I think you're off to a good start. I think you've got a got something going. Uh, what do you want to tell us about that real quick?
Yeah, I mean the community officially launched last week. We've got 9 members so far, which I'm really proud of. I'd started by reaching out to veterans on LinkedIn. You were one of those. And I'd initially started reaching out to people that were coaches or entrepreneurs, or like, hey, how can I get this thing started? And all the advice that I got was basically, hey, just start it and try to be as helpful as possible. One of the things that attracted you about Steve Horseman was the video, the content, and that gave me the idea for this podcast, really. So thank you for that. You were
Cool.
one of the influences that made me start this, and I realized that you had mentioned, the culture challenges that we have when we get out of the Army, the identity challenges. That's a huge thing because it affects people not only in the transition, but also can make it really difficult for them, for military veterans, to reintegrate into life, to find good jobs, to find stability. And so every one of these conversations I have, it just illuminates a little bit more what the problem is. So I've got this community at wakingwarrior.org, and the idea is that everybody can get in there, discuss with each other. We'll have these podcasts where people that resonate with certain people or how certain people healed will be able to go to those people, ask for help. We'll have courses. We've got a healing PTSD course that's out now that focuses on um, holistic modalities on how to heal and how to get through these problems. And the overall thing that I want to do is just get us talking to each other, have these vulnerable conversations, not like, hey, how's the weather?
Mm-hmm.
Like I want to have like actual no shit, real conversations about things that matter. And I think that's going to move us in the right direction over time.
Yeah. Another thing on that is, so your community, the wakingwarrior.org, what would you say the platform is for where people meet? What's the basis of it? Because like I know there's Facebook groups, there's different groups on different platforms. Is yours your own platform?
Yep. Mine is my own platform. I didn't want to run it on. I tried about a year ago, I tried running a Facebook group and it just kind of trended negative. Facebook just seems to do that. And I think a lot of people are migrating off of Facebook. And with Facebook, you have a lot of other competing priorities. And what I wanted to do was create a standalone platform where men can feel safe and confidential enough to be vulnerable and where
Mm-hmm.
there's no other distractions. So it's a bit of a two-edged sword, right? Yeah, it's away from everything. That can be good, but it's also away from everything. So like one thing I think I'm going to face is we have to make it so valuable that people are willing to adopt a new platform. There's no cost to it. It's free, but still, like, just that is a difficult thing to overcome. So you mentioned Steve's email list, and I'm putting together one now. I think the podcasts are going to be a part of that. Like, hey, we've got 2 new podcasts out. I just talked with Shawn Woodman, and then maybe do some things where we highlight people in the community and encourage them to take leadership and ownership of it. I think if people are starting their own discussions, if we're having men's groups, if we're having people interact with other people, I think that's gonna start. And I won't know what works. I'm just gonna experiment and pour my heart into it, man. This is something that
Mm-hmm.
I'm willing to spend the rest of my life doing, is helping our veterans heal, because I'm tired of seeing suicide rates, and I'm tired of knowing people that have ended their lives, and those that are not just those that have ended their lives, the people that are struggling every day with anxiety and PTSD and depression and identity crises and alcoholism and substance abuse,
Mm-hmm.
because these things not only affect us, but they affect our support networks, our wives, our families, the people that love us. And I can't not do anything about it anymore.
Yeah, well, that's great. Um, so one of the things I learned through all my business reading and listening was, how do you find your people? You go where your people are. So, for example, if a
I'm going to
lot
be
of your,
spending a lot of time in bars, apparently.
yeah, I guess in terms of online community, yeah, that's true though. Yeah, you go around in bars and recruit people, but uh, so let's say, it's harder to get someone to switch platforms than it is to meet them at their platform. But then that focuses you in one spot, and then you lose control. So like now, if you have a Facebook group, Facebook has control. Their algorithm has control. They can shut you down. They can control your traffic, but you can still find people on there. So you're doing a good job, I think, with recruiting on LinkedIn. And I don't know if I guess the more spread out you are, the harder it is to have quality, but you also have a wider net. So I don't know if it's worth having like a Facebook group, an Instagram presence, stuff like that where people can find you, and then it funnels them into your main community. But that's definitely one of my challenges with the entrepreneurial stuff is being spread too thin. I'm one man deep. It's hard to have a presence on all these platforms and do a good job. So,
Yeah.
um,
I'd rather
what
my theory is just do a really good job, and I think my heart's in the right place, and I think I can be of value. And if people are getting value of it, they'll share it with their friends.
yeah,
The people that need it. So my only job at this moment is to do the things that I feel are providing the most value. And I've like this is a thing that I'm willing to spend decades on. So I'm not in a rush. My abuela, she my spiritual teacher here in Colombia, she says a thing that we say in Colombia, sin prisa, sin pausa, without rush, but without stopping. You know?
I like that.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about the identity thing. This affects a lot of us. How did you begin to change your identity after the military? And
Um,
you mentioned you focused on like values and kind of what you wanted. I think that's a huge part of it. Like, how did you find that North Star for you?
I don't know. That's kind of a deep question. I think it was more just about finding a way to be happy as myself, whatever that is, whatever I choose to do, and not be wrapped up in, well, I used to do this.
Hmm. Yeah, I've been running men's groups for a couple of years here in Colombia, and like one of the things that often comes up is like I think as men we've got this sort of like hard driving, like I'm not good enough. I'm going to kind of beat myself up and be negative to myself. Then on the other hand, you got the feminine energy that's like you got to be happy wherever you're at. How do you find the balance between those two? Accepting yourself where you're at and also pushing for something better and greater.
I would say, I mean, having goals, having aspirations, and uh, taking care of your body. If taking care of your body helps you to feel better and spiritually and physically. So staying fit, working out, doing whatever it is, whatever type of activity it is that you like, whether that means you hike, you go to the gym and pump iron, or you do CrossFit, or you do some type of physical activity to keep your blood flowing, and also to take care of your nutrition. Um, guarding against substance abuse and not eating properly, all those things
Mm.
that, because you just can't get your health back if you give it away, I mean, and it's a huge basis for how you feel, how you take care of your body.
Hmm. Yeah, I absolutely agree. This is one of the things we talked about in our first conversation. I've got this concept of the five doctors, which will underpin a lot of the work that I do and have done with veterans. And one of the most important doctors is diet, which is what you put into your body. Is that why you started a nutrition company?
Yeah, I took an interest a long time ago when I was in the military. I never enjoyed doing organized PT, but I did enjoy going to the gym and doing the type of exercise I wanted to do. And back then, I started reading about supplements and nutrition and all. And it's just something that I decided I wanted to do as a kind of as a vocation, a way to apply stuff that I had learned and bring it to other people.
Hmm. Love that, man. Well, what advice would you give to members, veterans that are going through difficulties that are watching this podcast now? Like, how would you orient them?
I would say, lean on your friends. Find someone that you have people in your life who love you and that you can trust, whether it's a fellow veteran that you served with or a family member. But a a long-term solution to a short-term problem, i.e., suicide, is just not the way to go. And you know, when they're feeling that moment of desperation, just take a pause and reach out and call somebody. And I mean, I can't imagine someone being in that mindset where they're ready to end their life because they're hurting so bad. It's hard to fathom how somebody gets there, but the people that are in your lives, they don't want that for you. They want you. They want to support you, even when it feels like nobody's there for you.
Hmm. Yeah, man, I can imagine you saying that to your brother right now, like when you say that.
Yeah.
Hmm. Wow, man. Any 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 final thoughts, any things you want to talk about, any areas you want to delve into? I'm definitely open. We've got time.
Um, no, but I'm really proud to see the work that you're doing here. It's really great, this resource that you're creating for the veteran community and probably for others too. I mean, veterans are your sort of your gateway, but they'll bring others with them. So I'm assuming it's going to be a community that's open to whoever is interested in the resources, but um, veterans definitely need this.
Yeah, I think I've thought about that. What I've done is I've actually created two separate groups. So the first will be veterans only, like men veteran
Hmm.
only. I think there's a lot of work that we can do and that has to be done in a men's only context
Oh yeah.
and then a veterans only context. But we do have a working warrior general group, so people that aren't veterans that are men can come in and join. But I
Hmm.
think that for the sort of work that we're doing, for the things that we're trying to open, we need other veterans around because non-veterans, unless they've been supporting a veteran through this process, are probably just not going to mostly understand. There are things that
Yeah.
we need people to relate with that they're just not going to be able to do.
Yeah.
So that's part of the problem, right? Like now that I'm building this for veterans, I see that it's not just the veterans need help, it's men in general. It's not just men in general, it's also the people that have supported the veterans, like their wives, their children, their support network. It's like, how do I handle that? Like, what do I
Yeah.
like? I have to focus at some point. And so I think for right now, the focus is just going to be on veteran men.
Hmm.
And thank you for those words, man. That means a lot. You know, it gives me fuel to know that I'm on the right path and I'm doing the right thing. And I really appreciate that.
Okay. Yeah. And by the way, I don't mean to try to put words in your mouth or define your group or what your mission is.
No,
I mean,
go for it.
certainly you do have to be focused, right? No matter how much you want to help everybody, even if you could help everybody, they wouldn't all accept it. And by focusing on veterans, there's more than enough veterans out there who need this service or this resource that even trying to reach all of them is a task. So
Yeah, I think we're about like 16 million veterans in the US alone, if I'm not
um,
mistaken. Yeah,
mm,
there are a lot of us, you know. I appreciate it, man. I appreciate you being part of the community. I appreciate you hopping on and sharing your story and being vulnerable with the things that have happened in your life and how you found your way out of it. I think that this is a really powerful example to people that it's possible to do it on your own. You know, not maybe that might not be advisable, but you did it. Like you figured out a way out of that and then asked for help when it made sense to you. So thank you for that example. I'm looking forward to our discussions and the in the Waking Warrior community. I'm looking forward to your feedback and thoughts about how we can make it more valuable, man. And just wanted to say thanks again. Thanks for your time and thanks for your presence and for your example.
great. Well, thanks so much for having me on, and thanks again for what you're doing.
Anytime, brother. Anytime. I'll see you. I'll see you around and look forward to catching up with you very soon.
All right. Thank you.
All right, my brother. Be well. Be safe.
You too. Take care. Bye.